Hi everyone, welcome again to my channel. Thanks for the click. Today we are going to talk about coronavirus. Coronavirus is a hot topic nowadays, and we are going to talk about this topic in terms of vocabulary. Now, the first thing you have to know about coronavirus is that it is a novel disease. That's why it is called the novel coronavirus. It is a novel, it is new, it is modern. In the past, or in the previous years, we heard something like Ebola and H1N1 and so on and so forth. Nowadays, we have coronavirus. So it is novel, it is a new disease. Another characteristic that you have to keep in mind as far as this disease is concerned is that it is a deadly disease. What do I mean by deadly? It means that it can kill. However, not all people who are infected die. No, there are some cases that recover. Another characteristic of the coronavirus is that it is transmissible. What do I mean by transmissible? Very clearly is that it can be transmitted from one person to another person, from one case to another case, from one person to a group of people, or from one city to another city, or from one country to another country. Okay, so this is what we mean by transmissible. So transmissible is an adjective. The verb transmit. It is transmitted. So the coronavirus is one example of viruses that can be transmitted. Now, the question, how the coronavirus can be transmitted? It can be transmitted not via air. No, it can be transmitted when there is a close contact with another one, with a person who is infected. So when you get in contact with a person who is infected with the coronavirus, you will be infected. Okay? Also, the coronavirus can be transmitted via droplets, via what we call droplets. So when somebody sneezes or coughs, he or she throws droplets. Those droplets can transmit the virus from one person to another person. That's why health officials and medical professionals advise people to wash their hands, to pay attention to personal hygiene, which means to wash your hands with soap and water before you touch your face or your eyes or your nose. This is very important, okay? Another thing that you have to keep in mind as far as the coronavirus is concerned is that this disease, like other ones, has symptoms. What are the symptoms of this disease? Very simply, sneezing. Number one, sneezing. Coughing, high body temperature, fever, and also difficulty in breathing or shortness of breathing. These are examples of symptoms. So when somebody is having such symptoms, we say that this person is a suspected case. Maybe, possibly, but we're not sure whether he is infected by the coronavirus or not infected by the coronavirus. Now, when a suspected case appears with the symptoms I said, what would happen? At that time, health officials and medical professionals interfere. They interfere to do what? Very simply, they interfere to test this suspected case, to test her or him. Now, if the person is tested negative, he is not infected, but he undergoes medical treatment, normal medical treatment. Now, in case the person is tested positive, he is a confirmed case. Now, what would happen? This case, the confirmed case, the person who is infected by the coronavirus will be isolated or will be quarantined. We say isolated or quarantined. What do I mean by isolated or quarantined? Very simply, he will be put in a specific place in hospital so as not to have contact with people outside. Okay, so this is what would be done. So when a case appears, when a confirmed case appears, when a person is tested positive, he will be isolated, he will be quarantined. He will be quarantined and he will undergo medical treatment. Okay? Now, suppose if we have a lot of cases, for example, a lot of confirmed cases, they will be quarantined, all of them. Or possibly the whole city will be quarantined. For example, in Wuhan, where the disease appeared in China, the whole city, Wuhan, was quarantined. These are decisions and actions done by officials. Why? Very simply to stop the spread or the outbreak of this disease. Also, another thing that you have to keep in mind is that officials advise, as I said, people to avoid contact with people, to avoid gatherings, and also to try to wash their hands from time to time with water and soap. Another thing is the mask, wearing masks. Officials say, well, it's not necessary to wear masks, but they say if you are infected, you have to wear masks so as to protect others from you. All right, so the last thing that I'd like you to learn about this topic, coronavirus, is whether the coronavirus is an epidemic or pandemic. There are some people who say, well, coronavirus is just an epidemic, but there are some people who say pandemic. There are some people who misuse these terms. Okay. Now, what is the difference between epidemic and pandemic? And is coronavirus a pandemic or epidemic? This is what we are going to see now. Okay. So, epidemic is a disease. Epidemic is a disease that can be transmitted from one person to another person, from one area to another area, from one city to another city. This is what we mean by an epidemic. When the disease, when the illness, when the virus is still under control, this means that it is only an epidemic. Coronavirus is still an epidemic. The outbreak of the disease is still under control. Countries, officials, medical professionals, and health officials are trying hard to stop the spread of this disease, are trying hard to contain the disease, to contain this virus, to stop the outbreak, to stop the spread. So epidemic is a disease which its outbreak is under control. Pandemic is when its outbreak is no longer under control and is spreading fastly. So pandemic, epidemic, okay? Pandemic, epidemic. These are very essential terms to know. So we hope officials and the health officials and medical professionals would stop this disease, the spread of the disease, as soon as possible. I hope you learned from this episode. I hope I could familiarize you with some new expressions and vocabulary related to this topic. The novel coronavirus is a case in point. If you have any question or suggestion, don't hesitate to let me know. See you in another episode. Have a good time and goodbye.